Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. My name is Agustia Kulavali with YoungBIZ, and today we're going to be talking about the economics of pricing, including essential factors like supply and demand, as well as breaking down larger topics like the market. Also, you can ace your DECA Cluster Exam. This video is part of the Pricing Instructional Area and is the second video in our pricing series. So now let's get straight into it. So if you recall what pricing is from the 4.1 video, you'll remember that it's determining what a company will receive in exchange for a product or service, typically in the form of currency or online payment. And this is important because pricing is a primary driver of revenue for businesses, and the price of a product directly influences consumer perception and brand positioning. Now that we've established this, let's dive into supply and demand. So when we're talking about a product or service, when the supply stays the same, the price will be affected by the demand. So when the demand goes up, the price will go up because it's more profitable for the company that way. And when the demand goes down, the price goes down as well because people are not willing to pay as much. Now when the demand stays the same, the supply would affect the price. So when the supply is down, the price goes up because companies need to make profit. And when the supply is up, the price will go down. The relationship between supply and demand can be shown through the supply and demand curve, and essentially, the point where supply and demand intersect here is called the point of equilibrium because they're both at balance. Now we're going to shift gears and talk about the market. The market is a very big topic, so we're going to break it down by first going over market structures and then discussing pricing regulations and practices in the market, while also making sure to cover laws and core financial concepts. So there's four main market structures that you need to be aware of. The first one is called pure competition, and this is when many companies sell the same product and compete against each other for the market. An example of this can include several gas stations in close proximity because they're all selling the same product, which is gas. Next is monopolistic competition. This is an imperfect market where everyone sells slightly differentiated products. An example of this is the restaurant market. Now, moving on, we're going to talk about the oligopolistic competition. The oligopolistic competition is an imperfect market where a small number of companies control a large share of the market. An example of this is the oil industry, which is controlled by a small portion of companies. Lastly, a pure monopoly is where one company controls all of a product. In real life, these are considered rare nowadays, but an example of this could be the United States Postal Service, which controls our government-issued post documents. Now let's talk about some pricing regulations and practices in the market. The first one is bait-and-switch advertising. This is when a store advertises low prices and then attempts to sell customers different products at higher prices once they visit the store. This is an unethical and illegal practice. Next up is a price floor. This is a minimum price that is usually set by the government that must be paid for a good or service. This essentially means that the market price cannot fall below this level. A price ceiling is a maximum price usually set by the government that can be charged for a good or service. Now, this means that the market price cannot exceed this level. Now we're going to be talking about the law of diminishing returns, which essentially states that as more units of a factor of production, like labor or capital, are added to a fixed input, the additional output gained from each unit decreases after a certain point, which is called the point of maximum yield. Now, to simplify this with an example, imagine you had a birthday party and there's a big cake. At first, you have a few friends helping you eat the cake. Everyone gets a big slice and the cake disappears quickly. That's like having enough helpers to really enjoy the cake. But then if you invite even more friends, there might not be enough cake for everyone to have a big piece. Instead, everyone starts getting smaller pieces, and if even more friends show up, you might just get a crumb. This is the law of diminishing returns. When you add more helpers, like friends, but you only have one cake, which is a fixed resource, the extra cake everyone gets smaller and smaller. And at some point, adding more friends just doesn't help much because there just isn't enough cake to go around, which is where we can see the output decreasing after the maximum yield. Moving on to core financial concepts in the market, first up we have a store of value, which is an asset that retains its value over time, allowing it to be saved, retrieved, and exchanged in the future without significant loss of purchasing power. An example, fiat currency, which is money that is government issued, such as the US dollar, can be seen as a store of value because it retains its value over time. Similarly, gold can be seen as a store of value as well. A medium of exchange is an intermediary instrument used to facilitate the sale, purchase, or trade of goods and services, typically money, allowing transactions to occur without barter. Once again, this can be done through money. In a form of cash, cash refers to physical currency or its liquid equivalents, like banknotes and coins, that can be readily used in transactions as a medium of exchange. This is because having cash allows us to not have to barter in the first place. So, as a recap, let's go over some key takeaways from our presentation today. First off, we learned how supply and demand illustrate that during periods of higher demand, prices go up, and periods of lower demand have lower prices. Conversely, lower supply raises prices, and higher supply lowers prices. We also learned that market structures determine how companies set prices and compete in the market. These market structures range from pure competition, where many companies sell the same product, to pure monopoly, where one company controls all of the product. When selling prices and competing in the market, companies use pricing regulations and practices like the bait and switch method we talked about. Lastly, we discussed money's roles, including serving as a store of value, a medium of exchange, and as a form of cash in our market. That's all we have for this presentation, so thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to check out more resources to help you excel in your DECA cluster exam or in DECA as a whole, you can check out YoungBIZ's website at youngbiz.org. Thank you.